So what happened was we got a little sidetracked for a very brief period of time, meaning that they made an offer. They in the meeting that we had, or one of the meetings they had, they said, well, we think it's a range between somewhere between here and here, and all we heard was here, and we locked up on that. We thought, stars in our eyes. Wow, that's fantastic. We're going to get an exit. It'll be really lucrative, and what tends to happen then is things move a little slower than you think, and you got a business to run. Because if you stop driving your business, then you become less desirable. So our attorney gave us great advice, and he said, you got to run your business as if this deal's not going to happen. And we took that to heart, and we drove it hard. And in the month before that we sold the business, we actually did over $1 million in revenue. So we really pushed it to the end. And it allowed us to negotiate strongly with this company. Ultimately, the deal closed in July of '88. They bought Geneva Software, the product company. We retained and kept the consulting business, and it still runs today. It's approaching its 15th year of business. And that's pretty much the story up to now. That gets us to about 1998. And I guess to reflect on it, it was a long story. I went through it very quickly. I took a lot of chances that I didn't talk about that weren't successful. A lot of this stuff looks, like it's pretty easy. But, it was all done with, starting with an $1,800 investment. That PC and printer was the only money that was ever invested externally into the business. How much time we got? 15 minutes more? Okay. I'll tell you what. I'll stop right now and open it up for questions. I've got a few more slides, but I'd rather stop talking and see if I piqued anyone's interest in anything to talk about. If there's not, I'll continue on. So, any questions? No? Come on. You guys got to have some questions.
Okay. Did your strategy for keeping your salespeople motivated work?
It worked very, very effectively. It was again, it was appropriate for the time, and that was when there almost was more business than people could, conquer. There was, more out there than salespeople could go after, and so, it did work. In a very difficult time like this, it's a little more challenging to pull something, especially in this, IT spending area. It's a little more challenging to do it that way.
You kept saying we. Was it just some group of people from the very beginning, or people kept going and coming?
That's a great question, and my answer to that is that when you go out on your own and you start your own business, when I was a one-man show, which was probably about the first 2 or 3 years, I would say we only because it was trying to, make people believe that it wasn't just me. And, so you'd start with that. And, the rest of the story, though, is that, as I mentioned, I took on a partner. I've had a partner with me now for, over 10 years. So, I see the world as we from, my wife, who, funded me from our family point of view. I see it as my partner, and I see it as all the people that were involved in this process to help build all these, great things that we did. Go ahead.
When you started out, would you have been able to do it while still holding a job at HP or US Robotics?
I would tell you that on a time basis, the answer is yes. Because when I first left, I was going crazy because I started developing this modem, and I thought, I'm just not getting where I need to be. So I stopped doing that, and I started to rep. And that's a lot of rejection, So I had tons of time. Rejection in the sense of no one was calling me saying, Andy, we want to buy something from you. So I had an abundance of time. But, I would say that I probably needed to have the, the undivided attention of what I was doing. So, I don't know. It's a tough thing to say. Yes?
You started off by saying that this is going to be about partners. What was the details of your partnership
Well, I didn't really embellish that too much because I didn't think I was going to have enough time. But I think a key thing here that I want to maybe describe is that the opportunity for me to leverage my presence in the marketplace was enhanced greatly by companies that wanted to work with me and that we could develop a relationship with. So as an example, I had Motorola, and I developed them as a customer of mine. They came to me and said, we want you to help us find this LAN analyzer tool. Find something of value. The primary company out there that had the product didn't want to work with me, but the number two did. And they saw it as, that's a partnership. And so we were able to work together, and we were able to do great things together. They took chances with us, we took chances with them. And so what I was able to do was, the nose of the camel under the tent is you keep, slowly working your way in to, by the time, we had switched over to have a lot of momentum with our own product, these same people who we had partnered with back with the LAN analyzer, they had given us this opportunity to build out and leverage their brand, their presence, their marketing to the point where we could then run off and do it ourselves and start to create, a standalone entity. Yeah.
What has made you successful?
Well, I would just answer it this way. I'm still young, and what drives me is that I believe that I'm not successful. Not that not going to lay on the couch and, give you my inferiority complex. I've shared in great, wonderful things, but I'm very motivated to continue on and to make a lot more money than I've made up to now and to create great things. And, it's that drive and determination to keep going. I think, to aspire to do even more than what I've already accomplished. Hey, Clark.
Over the last 10 years, how many people were in your business?
That's a good question. The software business, when we finally sold it, was about 25 people. And, it was driven very hard. As I said, we did $1 million. You can, do the math on 25 people and the overhead. And, when you're doing $12 million a year or, that $1 million a month, it's pretty lucrative business. We could have easily doubled the staff and grown it and probably gotten a lot more sales, but we wouldn't have been as profitable. The consulting business is about 25 people now also. So, I think the peak of, total people that were working in both operations might have been, 40 people, something like that, because the consulting business has grown over the past few years. Yes?
How do you even begin to make a partnership with such a large company as Motorola? How high up do you have to see for this?
It's interesting. One of the things that is tough is it's very hard as a small entity to deal with a large entity from a partnership point of view. So as an example, companies like Cisco, Microsoft, Oracle, they've got thousands of partners. And to establish a relationship like what we established, being given access to development people, you have to be a big monster to deal with them. So, what I dealt with this LAN analyzer company was a relatively small company. It was, I think it was a company called Exelan. And I think when I was dealing with them, they were probably, less than 100 people, something like that. And they ultimately grew and they were acquired by a company called Novell and grew to be very big. But, you can't, it's very hard in my experience to penetrate at a partnership level and work with a bigger entity if you're a small entity. On the other hand, Motorola, the way that worked is that I was dealing with a small division, group, lab part of Motorola. And so when I say I represented Motorola in their LAN analyzer quest, I wasn't representing the corporation. I was representing just a small entity. But they had a good budget, and ultimately they bought a lot of equipment from us. Yes?
When your software company was acquired,
Yes.
how much was it acquired for, and do you think that was a good idea to, or could it have grown more, grown bigger?
It's, I guess I would say that I've never really talked about the number. I would tell you that it was a nice large number from where we were what we thought. Very lucrative. It was more than we ever thought we'd ever get in doing this because, again, wasn't, when you're in the, if you're taking outside money, meaning you're taking other people's money, they typically take a lot of risk with you and they expect to get a high return on investment. And so for us, because we controlled and owned the entire entity, whatever they paid us was coming back to us. And so, it was a lot of money. And, I would say that, yes, we were very satisfied with it. And I think one of the things that I didn't talk about is, what do you do with that? Now that you get an exit like this, what do you do with the money? What we've done is we've diversified it. We've reinvested in our consulting business at some level, trying to protect it, but we're waiting for the right opportunity to redeploy it and do it again. And as I mentioned to the gentleman behind you, for me, I want to be more successful. So I want to take